Welcome to ROI of Peace podcast. I'm so happy you're here. I'm sending you lots of hugs and loves. You guys, my daughter just got engaged. It is so sweet. She and her boyfriend have been dating for 3 years. He is the best guy she's ever dated. I told her that. And I was like, her other choices, a pilot. And so he wants to do work on American, and he wants to do international flights, all the things. So we're so lucky. We're so excited to get the flight benefits. Let's be real. And to have a great son-in-law, another great son-in-law. Let's be honest. It is amazing. They wanted to just get engaged on their own, not have a lot of people around. They're very introverted, but they can be extroverted when they need to be, but they wanted to have this private moment on their own. And so it was so sweet. So he took her around to different places that they had in their dating history, different a taco shop that they really loved, the coffee shop that they first went to. They actually met at the doctor's office that he was working at. Now, this is a crazy story, you guys. So when we moved here to Dallas 23 years ago, I don't know, it's been a while. And we moved to this area, Scott needed to go to the doctor. And I was like, well, just find something, And so he found this doctor's office that we have literally been going to for 20 years. And so Ashlyn, a few years ago, was having some stomach issues. So she went to the doctor and she checked in, and this guy checked her out. And so she met with the doctor, and the doctor's like, okay, yeah, you need to get some blood tests. We have a blood lab here. Just go sit in the blood waiting room and get ready. Well, then her now fiance approached her and was like, hey, you want to go grab some coffee? And she said yes. Okay, he is not typically like that at all. And she is not typically like that at all either. I just feel like it was the cutest thing that 20 years ago, we chose this doctor's office that our future daughter at the time, who was 4 years old, would meet her to-be husband. Is so sweet. So anyway, we just been dying over here. We have another wedding to plan 2 years in a row. We're going to go wedding dress shopping, all the things. Brinley's going to come out for the wedding dress shopping, and it's going to be so sweet. So I was talking to Ashlyn and her fiance more about what they want their wedding to be like. They would really actually like to elope, but I was like, I have to be there. I'm so sorry. We can keep it chill, but can I please just be there? And they're like, yes, as long as we can just keep it very, very small. Just our immediate family, his immediate family. That's it. And I was like, okay, I can totally do that. And I was telling them, they're like, well, should we have a party? And I was like, you guys aren't really big party people. Is there? And so we were tossing around other ideas about what they could do. And so she came and she was telling me about her vision of having a extended family dinner party. Basically celebrating them, but in a chill way that works for them. And as I was talking to them about it and talking to Ashlyn about it, I was like, I love that you're making this event you. You're honoring how you want to show up, not feeling the pressure of a wedding always has to be some big deal. It always has to be some extraordinary, huge party. And it doesn't have to be that way. And trust what you want, bring what you want to the table, and it will all work the way you want it to work out. But the most important thing is you're marrying your best friend, and you guys have such a great relationship. And today's episode is such like that. I had the wonderful opportunity of interviewing Prassède, and we talked about this deep self-trust when the world is so noisy, when the world is so telling us to do one thing or feel one way, and we can actually listen to our inner voice and trust in that inner voice. She has a huge story of being in bed for 3 months, being so vitally sick, and I totally resonate with that and totally get that. But she built a marketing agency from bed. She is a strategist and coach for founders who are tired of being the default marketer of their business. And after nearly a decade of building a multi-six-figure agency, she founded Numinous to help service-based entrepreneurs show up online with clarity, confidence, and sustainable systems. I can't wait for you to meet her. I can't wait for you to jump into this beautiful episode, and I'll see you inside. Take a breath. You've got this. Prassède, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm so excited you're here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're going to start with a game. It's called Pick Your Piece.
Mm-hmm.
And it's from the ROI of Peace app. And here's the board. And this is, there's 12 interferes, and these represent the 12 interferes, these tiles. And the interferes are patterns that we fall into when we're under pressure. They're sabotaging our peace. They're taking away from our success and our joy in life. And so we're going to start off by having you choose a number between 1 and 12, and I've randomized these each time. And you're going to choose the visualization story that we're going to do today.
Okay. I'll choose 7.
7. Okay. 7. We got the overgiver. Oh.
Oh.
Okay. Tell me why you're laughing.
And I think that was just such a theme, especially in my younger years as a person and an entrepreneur. And I really had to rein that in the last few years because, first of all, I don't think it always comes just to be an overgiver doesn't mean that it's necessarily altruistic, right? A lot of that is very defense mechanism related, self-preservation related. And as I kind of got into all that work, I realized that actually a lot of it was not self-serving and incredibly draining and actually hurting me in a lot of ways. And, I think it all wraps in with boundary work and things like that too, which has just been such a journey of mine in the last few years. So funny to have picked that because it's just so real.
It's so right on. I know I have overgiving patterns all the time that I have to recognize that there's underlying roots of whether it's different items and stuff like that, but it's just such a great, powerful thing. So all our friends and Prassède, you guys, if you're in a comfortable position, you're sitting down, you can close down your eyes. In these few minutes, you're investing in peace, and that investment starts working right now. The overgiver pours into everyone else to prove that she's worthy of love, value from others, and herself. But that's a lie. Your worth isn't earned through giving, it's honored through being. Let's jump into the story. There once was a woman who carried a candle wherever she went. She loved helping others find their way. When she met someone lost in the darkness, she would light her candle to guide them forward. Soon word spread through the villages. There was a woman whose light never failed. People came to her from miles away. And every night she lit her candle again and again, sharing her flame until every home glowed with warmth. But she never noticed that with each spark she gave, her own wax thinned, her wick shortened. Her hands trembled from exhaustion. One night as she walked home after lighting the last house on the hill, she realized the path before her was darker than she had ever seen. The stars were hidden, the air was cold. She looked down, her own candle had burned to the end. All around her, windows shimmered with light. But she stood alone in the shadow. Her heart ached with the truth she had avoided. She'd given away everything, even the glow of her own soul. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "I have nothing left to give." Then, in that silence, she felt a faint warmth deep within her chest. Not a flame that she had to light, but one that was always living there, waiting. She placed her hand over her heart, and slowly a soft light rose from within. A steady, golden, alive light. It wasn't borrowed, it wasn't given, it was hers. She understood that the true service doesn't come from depletion, it comes from devotion. From a flame that is tended, loved, and renewed from within. From that day on, she still offered her light, but only after nurturing her own. And as her soul grew brighter, so did every flame that she touched. Where have you been giving so much that your own light feels diminished? What does your soul need to feel nurtured and refueled? You can take a deep breath and open your eyes. Well done!
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Thank you. I would love to hear your thoughts during that.
I mean, it's a very emotional parable. I think it's a narrative that'll be familiar to so many, especially women, especially
Yes.
women in business. I think for me, it reminds me of my just really early days where I thought I had to overserve to be worth working with or worth,
Mhm.
being around. And it led to the same moment too, that
Yeah.
your worth is never in overproducing or overbeing or or anything that requires you to extend beyond, your own flame, I guess. So it's I think we all do it. It's a universal experience, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a good reminder
Yeah.
of everywhere in life that you may still be doing it, and it's all cyclical, right? Like you may heal one aspect of that and then discover that you've only peeled back one layer of the onion and there's another depth to it that you then need to explore.
Yes, totally. And I was thinking too, one of my clients, she had me look over some proposal that she's doing for a private client, and I was looking through her proposal and I'm like, this is so thorough. This is so much stuff.
Mm,
And I got to the price point and I was like, I wonder what she's going to say, you know? Is
mm,
she valuing her time or is she not? And I
mm,
think that's where the overgiver kind of plays into that we have to prove so much that look at what all you get, all these things, even down to proving the price. And
mm.
we're worth charging exactly what we're worth, you know? And we don't have to bat an eye or overthink it or over fear or over deliver for our offerings as well.
Yeah, it's so difficult too because as an entrepreneur or I'll speak from my own experience and maybe you feel the same. You are often only stuck with your own like vacuum, right? Like your own rhetoric, your own mind. And so you don't necessarily have someone all the time who is telling you, a counter message to the one that your mind is playing on repeat. And it's just
Yes.
additionally difficult to find a way out of that maze of self talk. I even realized something in the most mundane task for me, I've been doing for years, like these very beautifully designed scopes of service, because I work in a very visual industry and we had taken a lot of time and this scope would just take me an hour or more to put together because of all the little bits and pieces. And I just completely scrapped that and came up with the most, easy black and white written document scope of service that the only qualifier being my time, which is more precious than ever, and easy to fill
Yes.
out and repetitive. And more of those scopes get accepted than any of the others ever did. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
it goes to show you that I think bringing the onus of what's important to things that are I do want to call them self-serving or maybe a little
Yes.
bit more selfish than you would otherwise choose to be is really, I think, in a lot of ways, the best thing you can do for yourself and others.
Yes, yeah, is acknowledge that all that we're giving and all that we are and all that we're approaching life and recognize that it is a lot, you know? And having that energetic, emotional leverage within ourselves to know this is enough. I don't have to give so much. I don't have to make it so perfect. I don't have to overthink it or overgive or any of those things that really tip us away from peace and success
Mm.
instead of fuel it. And it's like the simple things win every single time, you know? It's amazing. And so, I one of the things that we connected so deeply on is your health journey. And with me and my health journey, I have learned so much. But your health journey was crazy. And as you were developing your business. So take us back to when you were dealing with this severe mold toxicity and COVID complications, and you're building your agency from bed because I have worked in bed so often. I
Yeah.
cannot, totally feel that way. Take us back to those moments.
I mean, I think if anyone here has experience with mold toxicity, it can come so much earlier than you ever realize it. And for me, it had been suffering and symptom building for over 10 years before I began to even understand that it was a mold related issue. And I was very young and, didn't have access to a lot of resources. And that makes it so much more difficult because mold especially is not something that is maybe in the mainstream as much as I believe that it should be. Anyway, I started my business in 2018. I was still living in the house that was making me, sick at the time. And then, fast forward a few years, I'm still a very baby business owner. I'd had a lot of chronic pain. My respiratory system hadn't always been great. I was already dealing with like the arthritis, the brain symptoms. There was so much. But I had at that point, I believe that I had or was just about to get that diagnosis. Find out that I had an overload of neurotoxins in my brain due to mold toxicity, and the pandemic hits. Just a little baby business owner trying to get this thing up and running, get it working. It had kind of been official for maybe just at that point less than a year. And the day that Portland shuts down, I start feeling symptoms, like literally the day. And I got not only that first wave of COVID, which was so severe, but I got the pneumonia as well. And I wasn't critical enough that they would let me in the hospitals, because I don't know if it was the same where you were at the time, but they weren't letting people in the hospital unless they were in respiratory failure. But I was completely bedbound. I couldn't walk around the block. I couldn't be up for extended periods of time. And I'm talking 20, 30 minutes as an extended period of time. I couldn't breathe. I needed aid to get around. And here I am. Not only has the world shut down, my body has shut down, but obviously everybody is in panic, and half of my clients disappeared overnight. Not only that, but because their businesses were shut down as well. And on top of that too, I was in the middle I was in the middle of like an illegitimate like lawsuit. Like someone was kind of coming after me it was a former colleague. It was a really sad situation, and it ended up being completely thrown out, but it was just the additional stress of just everything, and my body completely shut down. But I remember just like working horizontally from my bed for days and weeks at a time. It was over 3 months that I was sick. And in this time, I'm also trying to make sure that I can survive as well. And I remember a very critical moment in that time thinking to myself, like, be damned if I will not go down until this boat sinks. Like, you will have to drag me under. And that moment was so pivotal. I remember just energetically right after that, a few of the industries that I worked with were deemed essential services. And as soon as that notice hit, like what was essential and what was not essential, I pivoted so fast. I was like, nope, this is my lane. This is where I'm going. And mind you, again, still horizontal in bed, I was like, I am going to survive this. And in the next 3 months that followed, still having long COVID symptoms, like I wasn't much better. And I more than tripled my business in that time and brought on my first team members. And thank goodness we'd already been remote from the beginning. So that wasn't necessarily like a difficult transition. But even so, in the next 2 years alone, I ended up getting COVID 8 times. And I always have to put the disclaimer, like I wasn't trying. I wasn't outrageous in my behaviors. It's just like the virus really, really likes me, just like, and it was awful almost every time, but it was really the foundational years of my business. And I just really had to make that decision that like this was not going to drag me down. But it also defined how I built things too, I will say. Like they really needed to meet my capacity, and they really needed to be flexible. And they really needed to provide freedom and a security and allow me to be horizontal in bed if I needed to be, and still be able to do the work that I wanted to do and survive. So, it was a really crucial period. I think about it still every day.
Yes, I totally. Well, got COVID, and then I had it for a week, and it was the worst thing ever. And then the next week, I didn't get better,
Mm,
and I didn't rebound, and I started having all the MS symptoms.
mm,
And now the doctors are like, we don't know if COVID triggered this, but I was like, well, I had nothing beforehand. But anyway, but I had long COVID for like a year. Like, just I was a very like athletic person before, and I could just run and bike and swim and all the things.
yeah.
But then walking up my stairs, I was like, oh my gosh, I need a nap.
Yeah.
Like it was exhausting physically.
Yeah.
And it is hard to like, I think the mental part of being sick for so long is the hardest, one of
Yeah.
the hardest parts for me. But what was the one of the hardest parts for you that people didn't ever see?
That people didn't ever see. I think after a while, uh, so with the comorbidity of the mold toxicity, my body obviously didn't recover as well as other people's. And there was definitely a layer of invisibility. And I remember even like
Yes.
years later, I was in Vancouver, BC with friends doing this really like one of the hardest hikes. I don't know if it's in North America or what. I can't remember what it was called. Everybody will know if they know the area. It's like the hike. And it is pretty much like a vertical climb all the way, and it took me 2 or 3 times as long as everybody else in the group. I was so far behind, and at that point, I'd already been told by the doctors that I had scarring or, like, what was called, like, ground glass opacities at the bottom of my right lung, and I'd already knew that I wasn't dealing with the same capacity, but I was trying to exist in a world where people were recovering so much faster. And I just was not, and still having to perform at the same level or even harder because I was trying to build this for myself. I didn't go to a job that guaranteed me, a paycheck at that time. I think the hardest part was like, I think at the time, it was twofold. First of all, it was like this unspoken pressure of like, why aren't you getting better? Are you faking this? Like, is this
Yes.
just your capacity? Like, are you just like unfit? And then it was also the internal dialogue of why do I care about that when I know the truth in
Mhm.
my body?
Yes.
And so, and that second part, I think took me actually much longer to get through, much longer. I don't blame people. I think people have a hard time empathizing with what they themselves don't experience, and that's fine, but it was burdensome at the time. I was, really burdened by that I think lack of just, or I guess layer of questioning of like, did she really have COVID 8 times? Like, are her lungs really this bad? Like, does she really
Yes.
have to be in bed? And I was like, oh my gosh, if you guys can't see that I am trying my absolute hardest, I don't know
Yes.
what to tell you. I just,
Yes.
yeah.
I know, and that has been such a hard thing for me too, is that, and for my clients too, where they're, because we all go through hard things, where they're out, have outside voices saying, hey, can't you just get out of bed, or can't you just move on, like, and for me, the hardest part is my own internal voice of, why can't you do this? Why can't you have more physical capacity or more mental capacity? Because that brain fog
Mm,
is really hard when you're so in it, and to me, it's this recognition and celebration of the things that I have done, like every day I take a walk around the block. It's like a 20-minute walk, but I'm a Northwest girl, so I love my trees, and our neighborhood has tons of trees, and I just love it so much. And
yeah.
so it just really sets my day up. But when I come back and I do some spiritual journaling, I'm like, I just walked around the block. I
Mhm.
just can't believe I did that. That is so cool. And my prior self would have never cheered myself on
Yeah.
in that way. It would have been like, well, get on with it, do something higher that's unachievable, or
Yeah.
have such expectations that you just jump on to the next thing after you've completed it. It's really taught me to celebrate and
Mm,
to honor myself and to honor how I feel inside, and to listen to that. My body needs a nap every day, and I will give it to it without guilt. Like those little nuances of trust I just really leaned into trusting myself even more and kind of silencing the noise, whether I feel like people are saying certain things or I feel like what they're thinking, they can't be that compassionate because I'm such a load, like
Mhm.
it's really, really helped me to have a greater sense of trust and honor within
Mm.
that.
Yeah, I would add too to that is that sense you're only doing so much more kind of damage to yourself with that guilt or that overthinking or the, thinking harshly of yourself. It just adds this whole additional harmful energetic layer that you have to fight through. And when you can sit in acceptance and for me, just cultivate ever present gratitude, so much releases not only in just that mindset, but in actual, I feel like in your actual state of being, you have to get back into a flow, even if you have to kind of strong arm your way into that, or trick yourself into that. I love that you go outside and connect in nature. We're both from Portland. So
Yes.
I love the trees as well. I need to touch earth like on a
Yes.
daily basis. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
yeah, it just, I think for me, I totally second that cultivating for me an ever present gratitude. And when I do feel that distressed, just sitting and in that space and, remembering like peace is now, gratitude is now. Let's shift back into that. And you just feel things like whoosh. And that's the magic,
Yes.
right?
That is the magic, and especially for it's so funny because we have so much in common. We are both projectors in human design, both
Mhm.
grew up in Portland, and especially for projectors, having that connection to really visualizing the and acknowledging all that we do to really recognize ourselves first because
Mhm.
we do take in a lot of energetic emotions from other people.
Right.
Just so everybody's on the same page, if we're new to human design, or maybe you've heard of it and you're not quite sure what it is, it's this blend between a personality tool and an energetic map of your soul. So if you love Enneagram and Strength Finders, you're going to love human design like 100 times more. There's typically 35 to 40 parts on someone's human design chart. And so we're going to look at a few of your gifts that you were born with and how you operate best. And friends, if you're like, wait, I need to know what my human design is, you can grab it in the show notes. There's a link to get your chart and see the tools that you were born with. So your human design type and mine is a projector. Now, the mantra for this is people are powerfully impacted by my wisdom. You have this beautiful gift of reading the room, seeing the energy of people, really allowing people to have space so they can pour out their heart and soul and have real deep connection. I've had so many times people are like, wow, I've never told this to anyone, like because it feels energetically safe to talk
Mhm.
to projectors because we value seeing others and
Mm.
really listening and feeling that. And as we do so, you're also a very wise guide. So you're able to guide people and to encourage them and to see this perspective of a pattern that you can see that because you're energetically connected with them. You have this gift of having a zoomed out perspective. So seeing, okay, here we are at A, how do we get to Z? But we don't need to do 500 steps. We just need two to move the needle forward. That's what we got.
Yes.
So, and as well, one of the things to notice is that you have ebbs and flows of energy. You're going to be on one moment and you're going to be off. You need time with people, but you need alone time to download and release everybody's emotions. And so, how have you seen this gift of being able to read the room and energetically connect with others helped you in your business?
My gosh, I think it has, I mean, really, it's the foundation on which I built my business. And I couldn't articulate that for a long time. And it is also something that is incredibly hard to bottle. So that when you're trying to scale something based on your own philosophy as a projector, I've found definitely challenges with that. And I've really had to make sure that I also bring on very intuitive and aligned team members as I've grown too, who can also kind of sense the unspoken as well, because I really struggled in codifying that. But it was so much of why of my secret sauce, of our secret sauce, of why I built strategies the way that I built them, why I spent time with clients the way that I did, because in one sentence that they spoke, I could hear 10 things, I could hear what it meant that, they had always had an aversion to this, or that, they had an important relationship here, or that, they always did this in their work. To me, I was able to make all of these connections to build them strategies that really fed them and fed their wellness without draining them, because I feel that often the pressure of marketing is just so draining because it's often not aligned with the individual, right? And you can't sustain something, I feel, that drains you forever, as we've spoken.
Yes.
So it really was so foundational. It became an interesting challenge when I started to try to scale. And it was actually something that I won't use the word fail. Well, I will. The first time that I went about scaling my business, I didn't do that part well at all. I was not able to codify that magic at all. And as a result, I had to reverse that and actually scale down for quite a few years. And only in the past probably year and a half or so have I reattempted that with all those lessons learned and integrated and things like that. But yeah, it's been foundational in how I've operated in the world and operated in my business, and why I built the business that I built, I think, too, as well, because marketing really is about being able to see people for how they want to see themselves, how the world should see them because they're beautiful and amazing, and also being able to translate that for a more universal understanding and attraction. And that's really at the heart of the work. So gosh, I mean, the more I learn about it, the more I know that it's just no accident that I'm here, at all.
Yes, and it's sometimes too we think about the cool things that we do as far as, oh, it's a one-time thing or it comes up here and there,
Mm,
but these gifts that human design teaches us are
mm,
things that we're born with, and it cements in our brain a little differently than if we take an enneagram or we take a strength finders, because
yeah.
we're like, well, we answered some questions, so, maybe that's not quite true. But this is acknowledging I was born on this certain date, time, and place for a reason. And I have these gifts and I can lean into them and use them even more. So the strategy for you as a projector to lean into even more is, as you make things happen, connection and networking is everything. And we know that networking is really good, but we know now that connection and networking for projectors are so good because we have this energetic exchange that almost builds know, like, and trust
Mm.
in a snap. And so that's how you make things happen.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's actually wild that you bring that up, because it's been a big goal for me in this year too, as well. When I first started my business, I loved that it was digital so that I could be home and, I only had to interact with the people that I really wanted to interact with. And I never really liked office life. I didn't like not being able to choose the people that I spent the majority of my time around. But this year, one of my big goals for myself is to get back out, because I did notice that I could connect with someone so quickly in person. And now that we can do that and we have more of that ability to do that, I've noticed I have even changed my lead generation and marketing strategies to be a little bit more networking forward. It's just also doing that in a way that honors that your other energies and the ebb and flow of us as projectors too, because you can end up stepping into that over giving, and it's a difficult balance, but I'm enjoying it so far, and it's just had amazing results, and even though I'm in digital marketing, it
Yes.
doesn't, for service-based businesses or businesses, small businesses, I don't think it will ever always replace an in-person connection a lot of the time.
Yes, I totally agree. That is gold. And that is really neat to recognize that what is serving you in networking and what's not. And to be like, okay, saying, you know what, this group, doesn't quite have the vibe, but this
Yeah.
one does, and to lean into those trusting. Also on your human design chart is your profile, and it's made up of 2 numbers. You are a 2-4. Now, a profile is characteristics that you were born with. They're layers of your personality. And so the mantra for this one is just because it's effortless doesn't mean it's not extraordinary. Because you're an easy breezy genius. You come to whatever you're focusing your experience and your effort towards with this like natural ability to do it. And sometimes as humans, we get in our heads and we're like, well, either that was cool one time, or I need more certifications, I need more degrees. We get in our heads about this, but you're naturally good at the thing that you focus on. And so you bring this ability as you serve and as you grow that really allows that strength to be shown. And it's so beautiful that you can release the thoughts in your head that I don't have to qualify this energy or this effort with a program or with a whatever. You're just really good at what you're doing. And that is your honoring yourself. And
Mm.
so have you ever discounted your gifts because they came naturally or easily, or you're just like, oh, that was a fluke?
Yeah. I mean, I think almost always, maybe. Yeah, I
Yes.
remember it reminds me of when I was working as a project manager before I built this company. And I had done this big project and it was really successful. But in the review process, I got one major complaint from the team that I had run it with. And that was that I didn't remember to throw a party at the end of it for everyone. I didn't remember to pause and celebrate. And I think that's like twofold. One, it was
Mhm.
like, all right, the job was done. We did a great job. It
Yes.
was really challenging. For me, part of that was like the benefit was in the challenge in and of itself. And two, maybe there's a little bit of like, okay, on to the next about that. You know what I mean? I think
Yes.
when you have that sort of profile, the caveat is like once you've done it, you just like you need more. You have to learn the next
Yes.
thing. You get addicted to learning. I
Yes.
think I've had to temper that. I did go through higher education. I have a bachelor's degree, I have a master's degree, and after my master's degree, I just had this identity crisis of like I did not need to put myself in that much debt in order to live life. I feel so grateful for the opportunity and I feel so grateful for the skills that I learned there. That was wonderful. But I recognize that there are so many ways that I could have learned that and not put myself like at a financial detriment to do so. And I am a huge, huge advocate of self-learning, of finding your resources, of online learning. Even when I hire, I'm like, it is more important to me that you show integrity, that you show a similar like set of values than
Yes.
that you have a traditional like degree or that you've officially learned something. If you can
Yes.
show me that you have the heart and you have the capacity, then that is so much more important to me than that you have a piece of paper that you've paid for
Yes.
that shows that you can do it. You know what I mean? So
Yes, completely. And I do feel like that mindset shift of I'm meant to be in the room, not because of the paper, but
yeah,
because of my level of genius. And this level of genius is not always dictated by a paper. It's always
yeah,
or a course or a degree. It's dictated by what's coming on from up here and having that confidence in what we
yeah.
speak on and do to bring about those shifts and strengths and
Yeah,
expansions.
you've just made me realize something because I've been going through this kind of challenge lately where I've been getting a lot of feedback from people that once they meet me in person, I'm getting a lot of commentary that's like, wow, you're so intelligent, but in a surprised tone. Or like, wow, I can't believe you know this much. And I knew that I knew this much, but I was like pondering this the other day. I was like, what is it about what I'm doing that is maybe not showing that right now,
Yeah.
And I was, for a second I was considered being bothered by it. And I was like, what does this say? And then, I just kind of got into it and I was like, okay, I think this is also part of that projector profile in the sense that things that come across so easily in person maybe aren't conveyed well the other way. And it actually really informs my business too, because so much of my philosophy is like, let's get you in the right places for like the way that you communicate and the way that you're going to shine. And clearly I need to do something a little bit differently there too. And it actually inspired me to do a lot more guest podcasting because what is so easily conveyed, I feel, in one platform is just not in the other. So it's so funny that you bring that up because I've been like really thinking about that a lot lately.
That's amazing. And that mindset shift of clicking in that area, like that is so brilliant.
Yeah.
There's one more part on your chart that I wanted to just share with you that's so impactful. And it is a gate, and it's gate 38. Now, gates, if we're looking at the body graph and we see all these lines colored in on the body graph, those are gates and channels. And they're basically the same thing. They're gifts that you were born with. This gate 38 is the mantra is, I am strong enough to meet what's hard. You are a natural warrior who come from this place of we're going to survive this energy, but we're going to crush it. And we're going to like take this struggle and it's not going to know what happened after us, and you endure it and you have this resiliency by design. You can handle crisis. You can stay grounded when things fall apart and you can see hope in the future. And the beautiful part of these gifts that we're born with is that we can gift them to other people. We can gift them to clients, friends, family. We can help them to see that the shadow is only a shadow here and now, but later it will be pierced with light. And so what how did this survival mode help shape you as you worked in this through your illnesses and through that really devastating time?
I mean, just tapping back into that moment where I remember laying in bed and telling myself, like, this is sink or swim, and I choose to swim until something drags me under. I think I found in my work too, it's very mental. I teach people and show people how to show up online. And there's so much mindset that goes into that, whether it's imposter syndrome or your fear of being perceived or whatever it might be. And I think having faced all of those things myself makes me a good guide for when others reach that moment. Because I think a lot of people treat those fears, and at the end of the day, they are all rooted in a fear as a impenetrable wall. And what I try to teach people is that our fear is a threshold. It's an invitation. It's a door. And if we can see it as a door is something you can knock on. It's something you can interact with. It's something that you can open, and it's something that you can choose to pass through. And if we can give more energy to that transition and the fact that it's possible and how we can navigate that feeling good, everything is available to us, right?
Yes.
I work that into my work with my clients so much. And it's part of the reason that I have gone in the last few years also down a coaching route because that is a beautiful transformation, It is it is an important transformation to teach people how to face that and move through it and give themselves what they have always deserved.
Yes. And to inspire others, I feel like one of my clients, she's like, "Hey, I'm just so inspired. You keep on going, even though you're really in the struggle and in the ick and in the yuck." And I'm like, "Gosh, I don't feel really inspiring. I just spent the day in bed and I did a little work and then watched some good movies." And but it really is that powerful ripple effect that we get to have through other people as well. Now, when we talk a lot about ROI in business and marketing, sales, performance, and all these key metrics, but the ROI of peace is different. It's a return that fuels everything else: clarity, resilience, sustainable success. And it has its own indicators. Which areas in your life are asking for more peace right now? As you look in this year, is it physical, emotional, spiritual, relationship wise? What area are you tapping into that's creating more peace?
Peace is a big driver for me,
Yes.
but I won't say every area, although it is like my metric. My metric. Right now, I know I shared before we started that I just moved. And so right now, I am very in the depths of private space as peace and
Ooh.
like cultivating my sanctuary and really sitting in just the truth that beautiful things can also be peaceful, and having beauty around you can be peaceful and can be spiritual and can be invigorating. And so right now I'm very much into making sure that my new environment that I spend a lot of time in because I work from home is very, very, very peaceful. From the textures to the softness of the surfaces to like the type of utensils I like to use and that fit the size of my own hands, you know? All of these things, I'm very much into building my little world of peace right now at home. So that's very front and center for me, I will say.
I love that. That makes me feel the same. I feel the same way when I look at my office. It has to feel a certain way. When I come into my podcast room, I'm just like, gosh, I love this color green. And it's just really surrounding there. I know that everybody wants to jump into your world and get connected with you. Where's the best way to do so?
You can find me on Instagram at numinous.creative, numinous.creative. That's a great way to reach me. I'm there all the time.
Perfect. And they can send you a DM and just get connected.
Yeah. And actually too as well, I'm thinking also I would love to offer your community. I have something that's really aligned with what we've been talking about. It's called the Creator's Mindset Reset. It's just a guide through reorienting around imposter syndrome, around your fear of perception, and just breaking through that barrier of fear of wanting to bring your story to the public and online. I would love for your audience to check that out. I feel like they would love it.
That
And
would
set the information so that you can have that.
Yes, that was amazing. Yeah, and friends, you guys can look in the show notes for that. And thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been so fun. I was like, oh, this has been amazing.
We've had so much in common, even in our last
Yes.
conversations as well. It's just been an absolute delight, and this is a beautiful conversation. I'm so glad that you had me on your show. I feel honored.
Well, this has been great. And friends, thank you so much for being listeners. Thank you for following us on the different platforms of Spotify, YouTube, and Apple. The simplest way that you can support the show is just on the platform you're on, push subscribe, push rate. I love seeing all the ratings and the comments and all the things come around, and I read them, and it means the world to me. So I appreciate you being here in our world, and I'm grateful that we had this time together to invest in our peace, because that is what makes everything move forward. All right, we'll see you in the next episode.